Okay, so welcome everyone again to the kickoff of our high school webinar series for the 2020-2021 school year. Who cannot wait for it to be 2021, right? Then we never have to talk about this year ever again. ConnectLife is Western New York's only organ, eye, tissue, and community blood donation center. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We have a board of directors as well as several other advisory boards, and they represent all parts of the community that we serve. Our mission is to educate the community, inspire donation, and connect lives. Here go those technical difficulties we were talking about, right? So, we updated our vision and our mission when we renamed or rebranded to ConnectLife, and I know you're all familiar or should be familiar with our new brand now of ConnectLife. We did that just in August of 2019. So we envision a future where blood is available for everyone. We decrease the number of deaths of those waiting for a transplant, that we can enhance quality of life through tissue donation, and that we honor all gifts. So, for those of you who have been involved in the Connect Life Clubs or formerly Donate Life Clubs, we talk a lot about our organization and the history of the clubs. But, today we really haven't shared with you in much detail the history of our organization as a whole. We have been in existence really starting off as the Buffalo Eye Bank in 1945. So it's really interesting when you think about now everywhere that you hopefully see our company, what we do, our services, that we really began, almost 80 years ago. We then became the Organ Procurement Organization in 1981. It was in 93 that we merged organ and tissue donation. And then in 2007 that we added on blood donation. So at that point in time, we were the first organization to have organ, eye, tissue, and community blood donation under one roof. Since that time, there is one other organization in the US that has all of those service lines. Although I will say there's many other organizations throughout the world that have organ, eye, tissue, blood, marrow, stem cells, cord blood, and even mother's milk as their donation services. So, as students are looking for opportunities to maybe do some more research on the history of blood banks and or organ procurement organizations, I'd encourage you to not only look within the US, but outside the country as well. It was 2012 when we did our first rename or rebrand. We went from Upstate New York Transplant Services to units. Then we did our last rebrand, again, as I said, just in 2019. So in addition to our services here, we have a satellite location in Syracuse, which is the Central New York Eye and Tissue Bank division, as well as we began tissue collections in Albany. So as much as we are Western New York based, we do help to provide services and saves lives, even into the Central New York area. This gives you a little bit of a visual view of the impact that ConnectLife had. And this was in 2019. There were 38 organ donors, 1,100 tissue donors, 745 eye donors, 291 birth tissue donors, and 26,600 blood and platelet donors. So you think of all the lives that were saved because of the generosity of these donors and these donor families in our region. It's pretty impactful. So we'll give you a brief overview about organ and tissue donation. And again, for those of you who are familiar with our organization and or who have been working on us with us as far as a club, a lot of this will be great refresher information. And again, for those of you who may want to share this content with your health teachers, with your biology teachers, it provides a great insight as far as the services that our organization has. So when we talk about organ and tissue donation, it's very important that we talk about the two different types of death that lead to donation. So first off, there's cardiac death. This is when a person's heart stops beating. 99% of people will pass away in this way. And at this point in time, someone could enhance the lives of up to 75 people through tissue donation. The other type of death that we'll talk about is brain death. This is when the brain suffers an irreversible injury and brainstem function stops. At this point in time, someone's heart is beating, their lungs are being perfused on a ventilator, but again, they have no brain activity, so they have been declared brain dead. This really only happens in 1% of the population, and these are the type of people who are able to save lives through organ donation. When you look at that slide that I just showed of the impact, I think that's reflective of this. We had 38 organ donors, but over 1,000 tissue donors last year. So we'll talk about the need for organ donation. And, when you look at this picture of our full stadium and a half, we wonder if we'll ever get to that time again, right, where we could be watching games in person. But if all the people waiting for organs in the U.S. gathered at New Era Field, which I know is now not New Era Field, we would fill it about 1.5 times. This is about 113,000 people who are waiting in the U.S. for an organ. 22 people pass away every day because there aren't enough organs available. So you go back to our vision statement, right? Our hope is that we will one day help to be able to raise awareness and encourage donation so that more people can live instead of pass away waiting for an organ. So when you look at this visual, you can see why that aspect of our vision is so important. A single organ donor can save the lives of up to 8 people. That's through the donation of heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and intestine. All of these are life-saving organs that improve the quality of life for those waiting. When we talk about these, obviously kidneys, you can save up to 2 people, lungs the same, as well as someone's liver could potentially be split and save the lives of multiple people. A lot of questions that we receive when we talk about organ donation and transplantation are who decides who gets an organ? How do we determine who's sick enough or who's well enough? And there's a lot of myths and misconceptions within the media as far as the factors that go into someone receiving an organ. But a lot of the elements that are considered in organ matching have nothing to do with, or have anything to do with, in fact, things like gender, ethnicity, wealth status. What does come into play here are body type, body size, how sick a person is, or how well they are, the distance between the donor's hospital and the patient, how long someone's been waiting on list, and the availability of the potential recipient. For example, can they make it right to the hospital for the transplant? When we talk about the distance between the donor's hospital and the patient, with each of the organs I mentioned, each one of them can only be outside of the body for a certain amount of time. So for example, someone who becomes a heart donor, someone waiting for a heart in California could never receive one from someone in New York because that heart has to be transplanted within 4 hours. So that gives you a sense of how that time or region plays into it. We'll jump ahead and talk briefly about tissue donation. This I think is a great visual because it shows you just some of the many different types of tissue that can be donated to enhance someone's lives, some that you may not even think about. When we talk about veins or arteries, rib cartilage, femoral nerves, a lot of the orthopedic surgeries that you see and or sports injuries, the healing time and the growth can significantly be improved when donor tissue is transplanted. And as much as we say that tissue donation is life enhancing, it can be life saving. You talk to someone who's not able to see and now receives a corneal transplant, that really is a lot more than life enhancing, in my opinion. Here's the stat again, a single tissue donor can enhance the lives of up to 75 people. That's very impactful. Not only the gift of sight that I referenced, but pain reduction, restored mobility, circulations are just some of those life-altering benefits. So we talk about how someone can save lives as an organ donor or as a tissue donor, but the most important thing that we can talk about now is how you register and how you make your wishes known so that if that comes into play, you could save lives through organ and tissue donation. So it's really important that everyone knows that when you're 16 and you apply for your license, you can check yes and determine that you will be an organ or tissue donor at that point in time. So you can register in person or online with the DMV. There's also a link right from our website, as well as you'll see periodically, I know some of you received these last year for your campaigns that were able to have them, the actual donor registry card. This is really the most important step, in addition to one more that you can take now when you're healthy, when you're alive, to make sure that you can be a donor and save lives if that time comes. The next most important thing is having that conversation with your family and encouraging your family members to have that conversation. Regardless of whatever anyone decides, it's really important that your family knows your wishes, so that when they're approached at that time, they can be able to carry that out. So again, register and have the conversation. Those are the two most important pieces we want you to take away from this aspect. So we spoke about a lot of myths and misconceptions with what goes into who receives a life-saving organ. There's also some myths and misconceptions that we want to clear up and want you to be able to advocate for when you're having conversations with your colleagues, with your fellow students, with teachers. And those are the facts about the registry. Doctors, nurses, paramedics, frontline responders will do everything they can to save you, regardless of your donation preference. No one is too old to join the registry. You know, a lot of times we may hear someone say, oh, I'm too old, you don't want my bones. The fact of the matter is, and my colleagues on here can attest to this, we regularly have cornea and tissue donors into their 80s and 90s that can save lives. No one is too sick to join the registry. Your ability to donate is up to the medical professionals at the time of passing. So anyone can join the registry, as well as all major religions support donation. So that's really important. A lot of people, may be fearful because they're not sure if their religious beliefs support donation. There's some great resources on our website that talk about that as well. So we'll jump ahead a little bit and talk about ConnectLife as a community blood bank. We began collecting blood, as you saw, in 2007. Blood is extremely important, not only in our community, but in the country. There's no replacement for blood. There's nothing synthetic that has been made, so there is no substitute for volunteer blood donation. Every 2 seconds, someone needs a blood transfusion in the US, and the stats show that 1 of every 7 people entering the hospital needs a blood transfusion. 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives, and it takes less than an hour of time. So we supply about 75% of the blood in Western New York. That's a huge responsibility, and we wouldn't be able to fulfill our hospital's needs if it wasn't for great partners like you all and our generous donors in the community. Here you'll see our hospital partners. So we have partners as far north as Niagara County. We actually go down into the southern tier, Olean Hospital, Brooks Memorial, as well as we supply Bradford Regional Medical Center in northern PA. These are really huge hospitals, especially when you look at our children's hospital and our trauma hospital. So again, the responsibility is great. It equates to about 35,000 units of blood annually that we provide to these hospitals. I'm going to talk a little bit about the blood in our bodies and why it's so important that that blood is available for patients in need. So the blood in our bodies is pumped by the heart through the network of arteries and veins. Our bodies, our muscles, our life-saving organs, everything depends upon a steady supply of fuel and oxygen to get to them in order for you to remain alive and breathing. Blood is critical to this. It also carries carbon dioxide and waste to your digestive system, and then it's removed from the body. Without our blood, we wouldn't be able to keep warm or cool off. We wouldn't be able to fight infection or heal wounds. So, a lot of times we talk about the importance of blood in a trauma, in a car accident, and in a major surgery. But the reality is there's people living with chronic diseases that have a difficult time regulating their temperature, healing wounds. And if we didn't have the blood available for them on a regular basis, they would not be able to continue functioning. So here you'll see our great picture of the makeup of blood. So when you look at a cut, the blood looks like red liquid, but it's actually made up of several different parts. And here you'll see that broken out. Our red cells, our white blood cells, and our platelets, as well as plasma is this liquid portion that it's stored in. So for any of you who have donated blood, you know that you donate a pint of whole blood. Once that blood comes back to our lab, that's where we're able to process it into the various different life-saving components here. And that's why we say that one donor can save up to 3 lives, because we're able to make a red cell product, a platelet product, as well as a plasma, that liquid product, to be able to send to our hospitals for transfusion into patients. So then we talk about blood types, because not all blood is equal, right? Everyone has different blood types. And again, when you're talking about doing some additional research or finding more information, there's some really great and actually fun resources on the web to look into blood types, what they say, what they mean. There's also really interesting research articles. I don't know if anyone has seen, nor am I advocating the truth to this or anything else, but there's been some initial studies that show that maybe people with type O blood may be more resistant to the COVID virus. There's also a lot of other things that you'll find on, the perfect diet for your blood type, what your blood type says about your personality. So there's some really interesting and fun things to take a look at, especially as you're looking to move forward and educate again your school community. So your blood type is inherited, that being A, B, or O, but your Rh vector can be negative or positive. When we talk about our most common blood type, that's O pos. Your universal donor, so anyone can receive your blood, that's O neg, and that's most often the type of blood that you will hear of us asking for the most, because when we do look at our hospitals that we supply, specifically our trauma center and our children's hospital, anyone can receive type O negative blood. So if you're coming in with a trauma or emergency and that person needs blood immediately, they're able to receive O negative blood. And the universal recipient, on the other hand, is AB pos. So a person with this blood type can receive blood from anyone, regardless of the donor's blood type. Many people don't know their blood type. Youth, adults, people of all ages. Donating blood is a really great way to find out your blood type. Actually, on our donor portal, you're able to get that information just days after you donate blood. So we talk about, and I've said a little bit about who your blood donation helps. Accident victims, patients having major surgery, people with blood diseases, cancer patients, and also burn victims. Most blood is actually used to treat chronic diseases and in surgeries rather than traumas. So when we talk about burn victims, cancer patients, there's also people with anemia and other blood disorders that need regular transfusions. This is a little boy that you're going to hear his story right now who needed blood. So I think it's really important not only for us to talk about who needs it, but for you to be able to see the patients that need blood regularly. So hopefully my technology works again here. Oops, sorry, everyone. Oh, sorry, everyone. I hear you can't hear the video, so I apologize. Hang on one second. There goes that technology problem we had. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so it's not letting me add the sound. I'm sorry about that. So I will, again, you'll all receive the playback, so we'll be able to have it there. Thank you for letting me know, Christine, that you couldn't see that. So we'll talk a little bit about our ConnectLife clubs now. We've talked about the history of our organization and our different service lines. So now it's really important that we talk about the history of clubs and how they, like everything else in the world, are changing. As many of you most likely know, our ConnectLife clubs were actually established in 2004. And for those of you who are with us in the very early years, in those days it was called Life Lessons. So we are now proud to work with over 80 schools in the Western New York area. And as our clubs are evolving, as our mission is evolving in this new COVID world, we really hope to engage and be a resource for even more schools as we go forward. The clubs were started in 2004 with funding from New York State, as well as through a family who had raised money in memory of their daughter, Allie, who was a student at Williamsville South. Allie unfortunately passed away very tragically of a rare disease, but because she had had the conversation with her family, they knew that she was going to be an organ donor and help to save lives. So Allie's family continues to raise money to support our education efforts in all of our schools in the community to raise awareness on that need for organ and tissue donation. So I want to give you a brief overview of what you all accomplished in 2019-2020 school year, strange as it was. There were 5 modules in our program. We were able to, hopefully, I think almost all of you were able to come and tour our new ConnectLife headquarters, which we were so happy to have you see here to see our new headquarters. Receive some training from our marketing team. Many of you performed various service projects throughout your school, your community, that you submitted some great write-ups on. Our team here that you see on the screen was able to help with some recruitment training to help prepare your clubs and how we could recruit blood donors to support your blood drives at your school. Some of you, unfortunately, though not all, because of the start of the pandemic, were able to plan and execute your campaigns in your school, as well as many blood drive events at your school and communities. And although we weren't able to have a lot of formal final reflections, we did receive great feedback from all of you as advisors as well as students on the experience with the club last year. So just to summarize with that, 52 different groups came here for tours. 22 schools were able to have campaign weeks. There were 92 school blood drives collecting over 2,700 units of blood, and we were able to award 28 scholarships last year, which we were very excited about, and we hope to be able to award even more scholarships this year. The impact of a pandemic, though. So, everything was on track. We were going well, and then the pandemic hit and shifted all of our worlds. So here's another video that you'll again be able to see on the playback. You're also able to see this right from our website as well as our YouTube page. And it's really a message from all of our staff on how we continue to provide our services throughout the pandemic. So come mid-March, unfortunately, much of your great planning and your campaign weeks were cut short or canceled as you were all virtual, though many of you we appreciate so much how you continue to educate your community and talk to folks on the need, especially for blood donation at that time. We had over 287 canceled blood drives, resulting in the loss of over 5,000 units of blood. Early on in the pandemic, our center, as well as many throughout the country, had less than a 3-day supply of blood for our hospitals. However, throughout April, with the canceling of elective surgeries and more donors coming in our doors, we were able to adequately supply blood for our hospitals throughout the summer months. And we're very thankful. I know there's some folks listed here who held drives actually at their schools, at our neighborhood blood donation centers, and many more of you we know sent out information to your school about the need for blood. So with all of that, and knowing that, we are trying to all define and live within what our new normal is, we want to make sure that we can give back to you all and continue to be a resource for you as you navigate these challenging times that you have been so supportive. We know that many schools are not able to have clubs in the formal sense, but we know because of your generosity, you want to continue to give back to the community. So this is the start and really just the introductory session of our high school webinar series. You can see here each month we will have focused on a different topic that again we hope will give a broad array of information and pique the interest of people regardless of what your intended career path is. We also hope that this can continue to be a resource for not only your life science teachers, but hopefully your participation in government, some of your English or marketing classes. And we will be engaging a lot of our partners in these with us. Actually, in November, we will be working with Pagula Sports and Entertainment and have some of their leadership team help to talk to us about leadership, coaching, and service. I will send reminders out for all of these each month, but I at least wanted you to be able to see an overview of the different topics we'll be covering on these webinar series. So with that as well, we need your help. As things look very different, we want to continue to provide you with the educational tools to reach out to spread awareness on organ, eye, tissue, and blood donation. But we need your help in scheduling and supporting blood drives within your school or school community. And we realize that those blood drives may look different. We need to reimagine that. And I'll get into that in a minute and ask for some folks on my team to talk to a little bit about that. Our blood drive should aim to engage the community as a whole, teachers, staff, parents, and community members. So I'm going to ask Melanie, if you are here, if you could just unmute your line and just speak a little bit to kind of the way you are working with our friends at Looport to engage them and how they're reaching out to help to support blood drives in their community.
Sure. Hi. So actually Lori and Kyle reached out to me this morning since they, like many other districts, aren't able to host on site. We do run a monthly drive at the chamber up there. And actually the one legislator is also hosting one right before Thanksgiving. So I've put them in touch with those sponsors, and they're going to work to get the word out through their school communities, with the, traditional student donors, but also the administration, staff, parents, people who might not normally be able to come into a blood drive, that's held during the school day.
Great, thanks, Melanie. Hey, Rebecca, could I ask you to unmute and just talk a little bit about how you are working with Sacred Heart to reimagine their blood drives?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Sacred Heart has been wonderful. They have they're allowed to have us in the school in March. Like they have their annual blood drive every year then. However, we just came up with a creative, different way to have them have a second drive. We're going to do a drive at our headquarters where you guys toured at Brighton Stratton Way on, I think it's November 23rd. Don't quote me on that. And they're going to send it out to the school. They're going to be part of our November promo and get students and parents to come to the school. They did the same back in, I think it was early July. They kind of put a last minute drive on for us because we were in critical need of blood back then. And it went really well. I think we had 25 donors through the door. So that's just a different way to look at it.
Yeah, thank you. So, again, I think just to summarize, we want to continue on in offering education and helping to bring awareness to your school community, to have you involved in our organization as advisors and as student leaders. But we know the world is different, and we cannot have clubs in the traditional sense that we did last year. So we look for all of your input and feedback as far as what tools we can help to provide you with as educators to help to reach your community. And we ask for your help in, helping to create a new generation of people that give and to be donors for life, organ, eye, tissue, and blood donors. So if you haven't heard from a member of my team, know that we will be following up this week. We really want to work with you to schedule events within the constraints of your school, of your new protocols and policies, so that we can all work together to save lives in our community. So with that, I will turn it over and just ask for any questions or comments. Please feel free at this time to utilize the chat feature and or to go ahead and unmute yourself to ask any questions. Don't everyone talk at once. I know everyone's so excited.
I'll go, Amanda.
Hi, Roseanne.
Hi. I just want to say that was my son that was in the slideshow that you guys couldn't hear the sound. He was saved by donor blood and donor platelets, and that was 10 years ago. But to say that it makes a difference in people's lives is really an understatement. because I'm not sure how I would have recovered from losing him if that was the other case scenario. So I just want to say what everybody's doing is awesome. I know that we're in tough times right now, but anything that you can do to make a blood drive work, to stock the blood on the shelves is amazing.
Thank you, Roseanne. You know, and I think that's another, we spoke about a couple of schools and we shared examples, but I think another way, and Roseanne, I hope you don't mind me calling attention to you since you spoke up, but you know, Roseanne was very instrumental, not only in herself, but really in engaging her students over the pandemic in the summer and the community and bringing blood donation to the Eden, Angola, Lakeshore area. Even in, you know, personal context, you had an opening the doors, churches, you know, again, small businesses, as well as Aletha at East Aurora has done the same in bringing blood donation to a church down in East Aurora to make it convenient for students and staff. So that's really just another great option. And Roseanne, thank you for sharing that. And I'll make sure everyone has that video on the playback that you can see. Any other comments or questions you folks have? Team, anything else I forgot? The folks on our team here, do you want to mention? No? Wonderful. Well, I will be sending this up again, the playback as well as the slides to make sure that you are able to see the videos. We thank you for continuing to work with us. We hope that we can continue to tailor these webinars to meet the needs of you and your students. And we thank you in advance for all of your hard work and help in bringing blood donation to your communities and your students this school year. So thank you all. I will give you your afternoons back. And have a great rest of your week. Thank you all.